This is the book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 13, and it reads, Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that soweth seed. And the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. Kal alayim, Alahayanawa, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakaha Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach you on the rule world, who taught me this truth. Peace and salutation to the Akim, the fellow laborers, the hopeful elect, pushing this truth that risketh all lives throughout the four corners of the earth. To the awkward listening and learning, in sincerity and in truth, and in silence, Shalom. It's your brother Shimon from the Pillars of Benjamin camp here in Toronto with another lesson. And we'll get right into it, right? Idumean future, the future of these Edomites, a role reversal, okay? And these ruling class elites, they know this. Hence why they're moving with great haste. Hence why they're about to come down with great wrath, because they know they have but a short time. They're ruling class elites, they're international bankers, they're Rothschilds, they're DuPonts, they're Oppenheimers, they're Gettys. They know this. They know the end game. But they think, they're in the trick bag, so they think they can offset the prophecies in some way or form with their grain of rice. Amos 9, verse 13. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. Who's the plowman? Israelites. Who's the reaper? Edom. And the treader of grapes, him that soweth seed, right? The treader of grapes, once again, Israelites. Him that soweth seed, Edom. He's the ruler of this world. The wicked, according to Scripture, right? The treader of grapes, Israelites. Israel being a people for a place, beginning with the elect. Right? And the mountains shall drop sweet wine, the kingdom. And all the hills shall melt. The hills, these governments, these rulerships, beginning with Edom, Esau's heaven. His rulership shall melt. It's going to be done away with. Right? And they know this. Right? They know this. Psalm 76. Psalm 76, verse 12. And it reads, He shall cut off the spirit of princes. He is terrible to the kings of the earth, right? He is terrible to the kings of the earth. Yahweh Shai is about to turn this place upside down, man. Right? The kings of the earth, the rulers of this earth, Edom. Let's look at this in the NLT. Psalm 76, verse 12 in the NLT. For he breaks the pride of princes, and the kings of the earth fear him. Right? And these ruling class leaders, they're in fear. They know. But yet there's fight. Let's get that. They're still going to try and fight. 2 Ezra 13, verse 3. The point's in 8. Let's read from verse 3. 2 Ezra 13, verse 3. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. Right? And that's talking about Yahweh Shai. It's talking about Yahweh Shai's return. Right? Salakia. Right? That's talking about Yahweh Shai's return with the hosts of heaven, the chariots. But the world even caused UFOs. Verse 4. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, All they burnt that heard his voice. This voice that came out of his mouth is laser beams, concentrated heat coming out of the chariots, what the world enemy calls UFOs. Like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men, out of number, from the four winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Right. So in the midst of World War III, all these nations gonna be fighting one another. Yahweh Shai gonna pop up on the scene. And all these nations from the four winds of the earth, from the four winds of the heaven, NATO and the EU, America the Great, the whore, that rideth on the beast, are going to turn and try and fight Yahushua and the angels. Verse 6. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it. Right, and that's that fathership. The great mountain that Ezra saw in his vision was a huge so-called UFO. What the world even calls UFOs. The fathership. Right, Yahushua flew upon it. Verse 7. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. Right, and nowhere on earth could Ezra see in this vision where this great mountain that Yahushua flew upon came from. Right? Verse 8, here's the point. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. Right? So they're going to be afraid, but Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, is going to put the spirit on these NATO, EU, America the Great, Babylon the Great, all these world armies. Most High going to put the spirit on them to fight, but they're going to be afraid. Verse 9, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, right, as Yahushua saw these nations trying to feebly, without hope, put up a resistance, right? He neither lift up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw he sent out of his mouth, out of the chariots, what the world even calls UFOs, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, that's those laser beams, concentrated heat. And out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests, the laser beams. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude, which were prepared to fight, and burnt them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, these armies, the world armies, from the four winds of heaven, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid, right? So Yahushua and the holy angels and the chariots of Israel, the chariots of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, are going to vaporize all the world's militaries. Right? And Ezra said, when I saw this, I was afraid, right? Because Ezra had this vision, man. John the Revelator had this vision. Peter had this, the Apostle Peter had this vision. Isaiah had this vision. Jeremiah had this vision. Right? All the prophets of old had this vision. The destruction of Babylon the Great, America the Great. Right? And there's no way around it. These devils are on hyper mode, but there's no way around it. Right? All that these ruling class elites have is going to go into the hand of the Israelite man. The Israel being a people before a place. Beginning with Yahushua, all their spoils. Let's get that. Genesis. Matter of fact, before we go there, Genesis 49. We'll hold that. Let's go to Job. Job 27. Job 27 verse 15. Job 27 verse 14. If his children be multiplied, Esau's children, it is for the sword. And his offspring shall not be satisfied with bread, right? They're going into subjection, hardcore slavery for 1,000 years. And then Obadiah 1 and 18. Verse 15. Those that remain of him shall be buried in death, and his widow shall not reap. Salakia, and his widow shall not weep, right? Those that remain of him shall be buried in death. Right? Mass destruction coming for these Idumeans, beginning with Esau, Edom, and these other nations. Right? Their nobles and kings are going to be put in fetters of iron. Verse 16. Though we heap up silver as the dust and prepare raiment as the clay, right? And that's what Esau has done. Conquered, pillaged, heaped up silver as the dust, put a claim on all commodities. Verse 17. He may prepare it, but the just shall put it on, right? He may prepare it, he may have it. He has it now, but the just shall put it on. Who are the just? Beginning with the elect. Israelites, beginning with the elect. And the innocent shall divide the silver, right? All that these ruling class elites have is going to be given to Yasharallah. He, Prince Power, Princes of the Power, Sons of God. Israelites being a people before a place, beginning with the elect. And these Edomites know this. And they're going to try and fight. Right? Mass death is coming. They're going to take down all these Edomites. Ain't going to give up easily. The world is their oyster. They ain't going to give up easily. They're going to take a lot with them. They're going to chip a lot of people. Hip, Salakia. Right? And they're going to destroy a lot of people. Let's close. Jeremiah 49 verse 27. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. Raven. Let's look at this word raven.
Strong's H 2963. Taraf. Taraf.
To tear, rend, pluck, to be torn in pieces, to provide food. You see that? Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. Right? Let's continue. In the morning he shall devour the prey. In the morning. The kingdom. He shall devour the prey. Beginning with Esau, Edom, these other nations. And at night, Esau's night, the end of his kingdom, he shall divide the spoil. Divide the spoil. All that Esau has is going to be taken from them under Yahushai. Stay prayed up, pray without ceasing. Shalom to the hopeful elect.